Still with us, of course, is Tom Slater from Spiked Online. Now, I don't think, Tom, either you or me are going to ever get a job at the BBC. I thought this for quite a long time. But BBC staff have now been told not to hire people who are dismissive, outrageous, of diversity and inclusion policies. So I think that is me ruled out of a job reading the BBC 6 o'clock news. Joining me to discuss this is Campaign Director at Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
I love these stories. I mean, this is what's so funny is the BBC is obsessed with diversity of everything except thought. Not keen on diversity of thought at all. We knew that over Brexit. We know that over, general politics in this country. But they are being told in a recruitment policy document, disclosed in the Telegraph today, applicants should be asked to explain what diversity and inclusion means to you. And should you be successful, what opportunities do you see for you to promote, celebrate and encourage diversity and inclusion in your role? And they are told in the guidelines, don't hire candidates who are unsuited to the organisation if they're dismissive or derisory of diversity and inclusion and surrounding topics. So basically, you have to play along with the nonsense or you won't get a job. Just not being sexist, not being homophobic, not being transphobic, not being racist, that's not good enough. You have to say all the right words or you can't be hired.
Absolutely. This is just a test to see how, how well these people have bought into the orthodoxy, isn't it? The potential employees there. And this is what we've seen is completely wrong with the BBC at a time when you've got people who are giving up their TV license in their droves because they don't want to pay for it. The BBC are heading, not only are they not trying to resolve this problem, they're actually doubling down on only wanting to employ people who will buy into their groupthink, which is really, really concerning, but also just goes to show how they are not remotely interested in resolving the issues that they have.
No, indeed. And what's worrying about this? I mean, we don't want to hire people, who are racist. Well, okay, I don't want to work with people who are racist or sexist either. However, this isn't about that. This thinking is that if you're white, you need to accept that you're probably racist and you're a bad person and that black people and Asian people are somehow victims. And if you're a man, then you're toxic. And you have to accept a lot of things which actually vast majority of people don't believe in this country. But if you don't pay lip service to it, you're not going to get a job. And that's probably the same, I think we're pretty sure, in the police service. If you want to get a job, if you want to work as a judge, you have to go through a lot of this training as well. If you want to work in the civil service, police, anything. So all of these bodies and all of these people who have a huge amount of power in this country over us individually, over how services are run and funding and the information that people get on their TV screens are all being required to, in this Orwellian way, to say, I believe this, I salute to the orthodoxy of political correctness. But I imagine someone turning up, I can imagine a black man, a lesbian woman saying, well, actually, no, I don't accept some of these things. And I wouldn't think it was my job to actually promote this or that. I would think it would be my job, if you've hired me as a cameraman or whatever, to do the job of being a cameraman and just get on with my job and do it well. But they wouldn't be hired because they wouldn't tick the right groupthink box.
Exactly. And this is the concerning thing, isn't it? Because this diversity agenda is just really patronising and divisive. And if you went in there and said, I don't really buy into diversity. What I buy into is meritocracy and the right person for the right job. And, you're going to have more men wanting to do those kind of jobs because that's more like what men are interested in, and that's okay. Suddenly what you can't be employed by the BBC because you're too right wing or something. It's really dangerous. And as you say, this has eked into all of our institutions, hasn't it? But at the moment, we're being forced to pay for the BBC. And this is what our supporters would demand, is that, we shouldn't be forced to pay for this kind of agenda because, it's divisive. And, if you're a black man or, like you say, a lesbian who goes to work, that you don't want to be thought that you've been given the job for that reason. You want to think that you've been given the job because you're the best person for the job. Yeah, and absolutely. So it just undermines the whole sort of team fabric, doesn't it? And then you just get this sort of blob-like mentality where everybody, as you say,
Yeah.
has to
But
repeat the
also
lines.
the idea that, oh, well, we have to have enough women, we have to have enough gay people, have to have enough people of colour or people, or, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. And the idea that that creates diversity, as opposed to, hey, let's have some people who don't all think the same as us, who don't all read The Guardian and eat muesli in the morning and get excited about tofu. I mean, I've been in the BBC enough. I know what they're like. And it's the fact that, and this has genuinely happened to me on a number of occasions, BBC staff, often, you know, people who, you know, the tech staff and things, or occasionally produce a very senior editor of a very high profile show saying to me, completely agree with everything you say, can't say it out loud, I'd lose my job. As in, not like they'd be sacked, but they just would be gradually, you know, eased out as someone who had unacceptable views. That cannot be acceptable in the BBC, and it can't be acceptable, I say, the police, the civil service, or anywhere else. But we've also got Science Minister Andrew Griffith warning the BBC's prosecutions of licence fee evaders could spark a post office style scandal. So I know we've got that to come, and I hope we'll talk about that on another occasion. Thank you very much indeed for joining us there, Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC. Tom, I mean, you know, we all have to agree with each other, otherwise we're bad people.
Oh, it's outrageous, but this is just how it works so subtly. You just have, even in the context of a meeting, you've got to just toe the line.
Otherwise you don't get a job. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that many more times, I'm sure.